Edgar, que lleguen pronto y obviamente a Yvette que bueno, todos son súper fenomenales. Yo me quedé con, obviamente, gracias por estar en esta parte, part 2. I'll be probably switching on and off with English and Spanish, as I don't want to assume who might understand, and so we'll do a little bit of Spanglish. But no, I mean, thank you to the speakers, Yvette and the team at Latino Lead. For continuing to follow up on this, started this as an idea last year and wanting to always center the complexity that it means to be Latino, whether that is Latinx for you, whether that is Latino, Latina, right? I think it's important to continue to have conversation that break those layers of similarities and differences and how we can work on better our community together. Because if we don't include our Blackness, our Indigenous, our history within the voice moving forward, we're just going to continue to perpetuate injustices for not only us and others. So it's part of that bigger picture and part of the mission of Latino Lead in general to continue to push our communities forward in a way that's real and loving at the same time. So no, gracias a todos. We'll give maybe folks one more minute, but again, Clemon, Dios mío, mujer, thank you so much for sharing with us today. And we wanted to create this space, as we mentioned, to do a very informal Q&A between us. Like I said, it's not live, and so we want to make sure that we have an opportunity to hear from you. And so, Clemon, maybe, or maybe Camila and Ryan, if you want to share a few words or any initial questions to get us started. And then, all of us can jump in. I would say maybe do the little hand thing so that we can give folks enough time and space.
Well, first, gracias and thank you. I see mi gente here. I just want to say that you as LatinoLEAD are doing a wonderful job. These are issues that are so hidden from our own community that they don't even go to the bigger community. And in having these opportunities to talk about it, to begin to raise these issues, I mean, kudos to you. I'm thankful that you chose me to participate, as I said last week, and I'll say it again. I just can't share my personal stories. I haven't studied these issues or anything. I just live them and I share how I think. I am very, very passionate about Latino issues, about Afro-Latino issues, about inclusion issues. My heart is just always divided because I find that I cannot keep all the blessings I have, and while I can hear, others cannot, and while I can walk and go to places others cannot, while I'm living here with documents others cannot, while I had the opportunity to go to college others couldn't or cannot. So I feel that I am selfish if I don't share, if I don't use what I have to help others. And one of the things, it's very hard to live in a body where you are the target for many issues. And I am the target. And if someone at work wants to be mean to me, they will find the way to get me, because I have I'm part of many minorities from also having an accent and not being from here. So people, I am an easy target. But what I wanted to share today is my suffering is nothing next to the suffering of others. So I'm strong. I can deal with it. I have dealt with this since I was 5, and I told a story. I don't know how many of you have heard it, but I was in kindergarten and I was 5 years old. The first time the 2 kids went around me and pulled my uniform screaming, "Negrita, negrita." I was 5. Since that day, I have dealt with these issues. That day, I knew that I was different. But that cannot be an excuse to not help others. That is not an excuse, and that's the only thing that I don't take. Oh, I have suffered so much, so the others have to deal with it. No, just use your story to help others. And thank you for listening.
Edgar, I don't know if you want to share folks from the also the LEAD committee that have joined us, if they would want to share some thoughts. And I think we also just had Yvette join us. I'm glad, and hopefully it wasn't too much of trouble getting to this link. Pero bienvenida, Yvette. We are just, kind of diving into initial questions and conversations, and, folks are free to jump in.
Well, thank you, Irma. Primeramente, saludos a todos. Para que se acuerden que no estamos aquí en monochrome, como dicen en inglés, no estamos aquí de todo. So I just, loosely translated, that should be funny and say I, but no, loosely translated, no, I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that we're not in monochrome here, that we are in full color and, and diversity. Right now, as I look around, the diversity in this with this group of people can be baffling, and I'm sure that some of you can tell stories and you can tell us about yourselves and what we see. Obviously, that's my mantra, if you will, is not what you get. What you see is what you see, and then you dig a little deeper and you find out more about each other, and that's how we humanize each other. That's how we become human. The easy way out is to not know about us, to not know about you, to not know anything. The less you know, the easier it is to dehumanize a situation or a person. So, and that's the lesson that I've carried with me all along. I don't know where or when or who taught me that lesson, but it is probably the most important lesson of all. Every time I look at someone out on the street, actually, and it's become more so as time goes by, I've become more aware of this. No matter what they look like, no matter what you want to think about that person, you need to stop. Just stop and say, no, I don't know. I really don't know. So brain, shut up. I don't want to hear you. Okay. I need my heart to speak and to say, you don't know that person. You don't know what they've gone through. You don't know what they are going through. You don't know what got them to this place. You don't know anything. So be quiet and be thankful and have a little humility. And I think that helps carry a lot of us around when we think we have it bad. We just need to be quiet and imagine what else could have happened. What else could be the story of this person. They may not do the same to us. We would love for them to do it, because then compassion would go all the way around and understanding would go all the way around, and that would be the best way for things to work out. But I will not stop being the person that says, I don't know about you. And therefore I'm not making any judgments. I'm not saying anything, because I really don't know. Until I get to know you, then we can talk a little bit more. But I think that that's one of the bigger issues for me. Is just, we haven't walked in other people's shoes. Let's try to imagine what could have happened. But then if we can, let's ask for them to tell us their story so we can learn.
Mm-hmm. I think we might have had a hand up before me, and I also want to give opportunity to the NIB committee to share more. And I think, was that Karen Stein?
Hola, soy Karin. Pregunta para Edgar y para Clemen. Y obviamente también, o sea, en realidad para todos, para Yvette también.
Uh-huh.
Edgar no es mujer, Clemen no es hombre, pero ¿qué piensan ustedes acerca del nivel que existe, además de cualquier dificultad de ser persona de piel oscura? Acerca de la diferencia de ser hombre o mujer. What do you think? I mean, Ed is not Clemen, Clemen is not Ed, and Yvette is not Ed, but I would like to hear the three of you address the issue of, do you think that, does it matter if, besides having dark skin and, you know, that you're a woman or a man, regardless of, you know, in your country of origin or here, is the experience different?
Who wants to go first? I can go first since I am mute. I think it's a very different story. My brother is a male, a black male, and my nephew is a black male, and all the men in my family who are black. And I think in the sense of people being afraid of us, I think, at least in my experience, I have to deal with less problems than my brother has to. So my brother cannot put a hoodie because then he becomes the most dangerous person, being the sweetest person in the world. But he cannot do a lot of things because he seems like he's dangerous. And that has happened to me, but I don't think as often as it has happened to him. You know, I have gone to elevators where the women are like getting their purses because they think I'm gonna steal. But for my brother, I think it's worse. On the other hand, people will give jobs to a male faster than they would do a black male faster than they would do it to me. Even if we both were engineers, the male part is really heavy on the knowledge part. So I would say that in my experience, and like I said, I'm not saying it is that way, but you asked me, mi querida lechita. We call Karine and I our café con leche because we are Colombianas, and every time we get together is milk and coffee. You will know who coffee is and who milk is. But in that experience, that's what I think. In the physical part, my brother, my nephew, my males families that are black have it really hard. But with the issues about knowledge and about capacity of doing things, physical strength, my male counterpart will have a better opportunity, not being either of us in a better position than a white person.
Well, Clemon is very soft about that. So that's not going to be my response. My response is Acton Blackness sees men and women equally, first and foremost. It changes because Black men has been seen as criminals and dangerous. So they have criminal and dangerous and animalistic responses to their experiences, and Black women are over-sexualized. They think that all we can do is be maids and all we can do is sleep and open our legs for everybody. So that's where it becomes different. But anti-Blackness does not break it down differently in gender. The behaviors that come with anti-Blackness shows itself up differently for men and shows itself up differently for women. But it is there. It is absolutely there. My brother, if he raises his voice, as 7 feet tall Black Panamanian man, he gets seen as a criminal. I, as a Black Panamanian woman, if I speak my mind, all the negative stigma that comes with Black women shows up. I'm loud, I'm this, I'm passionate. Just me speaking right now, this is passion to me. But for some people, this is aggressive, this is to this is to that, because I ain't giving up. I'm not giving you the privilege, I'm keeping mine. So I think it's a great question, but the bottom line is gender does not differentiate anti-Blackness. The behaviors play themselves out differently.
I don't know that I can speak any more depth into this other than the following. Knowledge of stereotypes if there's some kind of if you don't know, like they say, ignorance is bliss to a certain point, right? Ignorance is bliss. So if you're not aware that there are any stereotypes and you walk around the world as if everything is fine, sometimes people will step aside and they'll look at you and they'll say, who do you think you are? You're just walking through here like this is a living room. Well, it is. If it's yours, it's mine, and we're out here and in a public space, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, right? And here's ignorance speaking, right? The ignorance of the stereotypes, because then in the mind of this other person, there are some stereotypes at work, and they are full on right now. Every single negative stereotype might be flying through that person's mind right now. And you know what? I need to be aware of that too, because as a stereotype destroyer, I will destroy the stereotype. And I will look at you and I may not raise my voice. I may not make myself bigger and threaten you. I may just back off a little bit and talk and say, hey, what's the problem here? In plain English or plain Spanish. What's the problem here? Relax. So it is difficult to look at it from the female side, but I do have to say that a lot of things permeate. Our culture permeates into this culture. Our Latino culture permeates into this one. And many things that we did and we saw in the Latino culture are brought to this country, and they're brought to this environment. And women will suffer from our own brethren, from the kind of discrimination that women have in Latin America. And I don't know if it has anything to do with the Catholic religion being a part of this whole thing and of a patriarchal type feel. I don't know what it may, I don't know where it came from. And it's really difficult to pinpoint this because of all of the currents and all of the influences that we have in Latin America. But then you come to this country and you realize that in this country, a lot of that stuff is not tolerated. And women will not stand for it. And you're going to find yourself in a fight with a woman saying, you don't treat me like that. Well, back in Panama, Colombia, or any part in Latin America, women were treated in a certain way and it was just accepted. Not all the time, let's put it that way. There are some very feisty Latinas. Some of you are right here, right now, I see you.
Yes.
But you're not put up with that stuff. But as again, in a generalization, in a generalized way, this is something that happens. It happens in Latin America. And when we come to this country, we even perpetuate some of these things with our own behaviors. And we need to be extremely aware of who we are and what that means, what we're doing, what that means to our sisters and our wives and the female Latinas in our world, and how do we not cause damage. And that's a tough one for some gentlemen, or not, they're not gentlemen, for some of the men who bring that along as part of their baggage, their cultural baggage.
And then we have Colnese.
Hello, everyone. I'm Colnese Hendon, and I am African American, not Latina. But I do want to speak up on behalf of African Americans in this conversation, because in the video part of this presentation, it sounded to me like I heard, well, I look like I'm Black, but I'm something else, you know. And the truth is, when you talk about stereotypes, maybe nobody is Black, you know, because I feel like African Americans are seen as villains based on lies. And if you're from another country and you come here, you want to be seen as different from us. But if we're all Black, we're just all Black, and it may all be a lie. I'm not saying that people don't act out, and there are not some criminal behaviors that occur because of oppression, poverty, and just being enslaved and post-slaves for 400 years in this country. Yes, we have suffered, and we have probably done some things, but so have white people. You know, let's just look at our last president. I mean, if that's an example to me of the most criminal person that there is, and he is as white as they come. So I'm interested in this topic because I work for a Latina organization as an African American woman. And when I learned that there's 75 million Afro-Latinas, it's like, because sometimes I feel like, well, maybe
200 million. 200 million.
200, sorry, 200 million. It's in some of the statistics, it's lowered, but that's a lot of people. And so
we were higher than here. I just feel like I need to interrupt. Let's not, you know, Latin America and the Caribbean had more people of African descent than when they got to here. This was the last stop.
Absolutely. So I guess to wrap up quickly, what I'm saying is that sometimes I feel maybe I don't belong at my job because I'm not Latina. But then when I realize how many Latinas are of African descent, then I feel like I belong wherever I decide to be, as long as people receive me. And if I can help the plight of women, because I work for an organization that serves women who have been victims of intimate partner violence, and I too am a survivor of that. I don't care what color, nationality, or anything. It's like, if I can help another woman or another human being, I will do that. And I just want to thank all of you, honestly, for talking about this subject, because I agree with you, Yvette, that if we're from African descent, it goes across the board. And if there's bigotry and intolerance and racism against us wherever we are, it affects all of us wherever we are. So anyway, that's my little 2 cents. And thank you for having me. I appreciate this.
I think, thank you for that comment, Konesi. You know, I brought this up in the first presentation, and I think we touched on it again here, because I think the conversation is also, you know, when we talk about anti-racism, we want the white community to have the conversation amongst themselves instead of using Black people to have the conversation for them, right? When we talk about the anti-Blackness that exists in the Latino community, we as Black Latinos can speak, but also the non-Black Latinos need to have a conversation about themselves, amongst themselves, to play out their racism and their bigotry, right? But I also think we need to be in a conversation with African Americans, because we have let way too much time go where we have fallen ourselves within the Latino community and within the African American community, that we are different and that we have different things. The only difference between me and you, Colonisi, is that you're in Minnesota and I'm in Boston. And you know, but if we walked out on the street together, the only difference between us would be that you're lighter than me and I'm darker than you. But there's nothing that says that I'm from Panama and that you live in Minnesota. And that when we begin to understand, one of my mentors, and I said this in the last presentation, my mentor, Clara Richards, who's the man that founded Black History Month in Panama, he shared And I want everyone to close your eyes for a minute. Close your eyes for a minute. You were dragged on a ship. Your father in front of you, your child next to you, your daughter on the other side, your aunt, your husband, your wife. You were chained to a ship. The ship goes and stops in Colombia, drops off father. Stops in Brazil, drops off mother. Stops in Jamaica, drops off son. Stops in Bermuda, stops off daughter. Stops in southern Alabama, drops off another aunt. We were not dropped off in our collective families. When we understand that we have been spread all over, then we can then see ourselves in a different light when we stand before each other, because as far as we know, someone is related to someone in this space right now. When we really understand how deeply rooted, connected we are, they didn't pick where they dropped you off. They didn't drop you off in your collective family after they chained our ancestors on that ship. Visualize that and understand that we are deeply connected. Our story is connected. Our history is connected. And then when they dropped us off there, whoever was there may have raped that African, that European raped that African, and then that European and that African made a child, and that child came out mestizo, and that child came out morena in Colombia, and that child came out indígena in Mexico. Understand that the connection is real. So the disconnect comes from us and the language we use, the history we've been taught that is not standing on truth. When you understand that we are deeply connected and that you know, I'm looking at the pictures. Ryan may have come out lighter because Ryan's family got dropped off somewhere and got mixed with someone else, and Sonia got dropped off somewhere else, and Sonia's lighter than me because they got mixed in with someone else. That doesn't mean that Ryan and Sonia cannot be family to me. So I just want folks to sit with that, because I think we run the risk of thinking that there's a disconnect when the only disconnect has been a human disconnect to absolutely tell the truth and speak the truth and make the connection. And at the root of that disconnect is how deeply rooted anti-Blackness is in the world. I didn't mean for everyone to go so quiet.
I think we're all sitting in it, Yvette. I think it's really, it's not. I think it's not even a new concept. I think it's more of, do we accept that as a community in general, right? And it's a question of when, and the hope that we do. I'm seeing time, but I do also have seen Monica's hand up, and so you'll probably have either the last question, Monica, so go ahead.
I don't want to keep us here. I want to ask my question. I was just gonna thank you, since we're just the last. And Yvette, I want to tell you, it's not that you leave us all quiet, but I could. You're a very enthusiastic person. I don't know. I like. Nos haces felices de la forma en la que hablas, but I could feel the pain in those last words, and that's something that I hadn't experienced through the few conversations that I have heard you. But in those last words I felt it. And I wanted to thank you for sharing, for being here. And I also wanted to acknowledge that there is deep pain there. And that, yes, me llegó al corazón. Gracias. Gracias a todos también.
Yo creo que yes, there's pain and there's healing in the process. These conversations are a healing process, right? I want to, deeply thank Irma and Camila and Clemon and Edgar, for taking this on, because this is not a choice. This was a calling and a purpose. And, it is not an easy place for any of us to sit in, but we have no choice but to stand up and claim our space. And I do hope that all of you that are in Minnesota use this as a beginning to a continuum, because where we are sitting now is so deeply rooted in an anti of everything we have shared today, that it will take us to really push back on it to have the real conversations. Because when you have schools saying they won't teach about slavery, when you have schools saying that the race theory don't exist, when you have folks dismissing historical moments like the massacre, the Tulsa massacre, or Katrina, that's an erasure of not just history, but of people. So we are in a place where it's not just about seeing us, it's about seeing and acknowledging the history that has shaped the world, and excluding that history is excluding us and dehumanizing us and removing us, because then we're not seen.
I just want to say thank you for listening. Thank you for thinking about it. If you are not a visible Afro-Latino in your looks, my challenge is that you challenge other people. Challenge people in conversations. When people say, but what can I say? I am not Black. You have more power than you think. I will be always the Black woman being screaming and being mean and all that, but your voice, your family, your friends, your community will listen to you first than listening to me. So now you know this. Now we have given you these feelings, this information, these stories. Take them with you. I don't care that you tell my story if that is going to help you make a change. I saw a movie once, and I want to finish with this. The name is Something New, and it's a white male who marries a Black female. I always remember that because my husband took me to that movie because he's white and I'm Black. And one part of the movie, he is white and she has a lot of issues at work. And he says, why are we talking about this, the race thing? I need a break. I mean, I'm just asking for a break. And she answered what Yvette just said. I don't have a break. I don't have a break of being Black every day. I don't have a break to be mistreated every day. This is an issue for me since I get up until I go to bed. So I know that it can be overwhelming for many people who don't live with our issues. But remember that we don't have a break. We don't. So it's stopping this conversation is a no. We cannot stop them.
No sé si Edgar tiene algunas palabras, no pressure, or anybody else that were part of the team or the panelists that want to close us out. Otherwise, you know, I just thank you for taking even more time out of your day to be here. I see you, and my gratitude goes out to all of you, and especially you know, Yvette, Clemon, and Edgar. Today and always. Y pues, aunque estás en Boston, Yvette, sabes que aquí tienes una casita en Minnesota. Igual tú, Edgar, que representó Iowa for us today. Just thank you. Thank you for, this is an open invitation always, and this doesn't stop in this, right? Like this is an ongoing and very much part of an integrated part of all of our work. And so whether you are new to the conversation or you've been in this conversation, pa'lante, because we cannot and it doesn't stop. And one of the places that, you know, I think we all have work to do, especially, you know, now that we do have more language and knowledge, is start within our own families, right? Like I think we can do so much stopping and saying no. Within our own circles about this conversation and not stopping in that. So thank you all for your time, y continuamos, y cualquier feedback, questions, anything that we can follow up on, please do let us know. We want to continue to provide, you know, issues and conversations that are real and needed. And so we need to also hear from you on where to take this forward as well. So muchísimas gracias a todos. Se me cuidan, y besos, abrazos. Y Yvette, un mega abrazo a ti, mujer, la verdad. Suerte y pa'lante con todo.
Gracias. No vamos a ser extranjeros, you know, si necesitan algo, me pueden escribir, llamar, you know, I'm always interested in being a part of the conversation, so don't be strangers.
Yeah, Yvette, yo
And I do respond.
¿Puedes poner tu información en el chat, Yvette?
Sí.
Porque
Voy a poner mi correo.
Aquí yo veo muchas non-profit, yo veo muchas agencias aquí. Esto que hizo LatinoLEAD, yo les pido desde el fondo de mi corazón que sigan estas conversaciones en sus organizaciones, en sus networks. Usen ese poder que ustedes tienen para seguir esta conversación. Así que ahí Yvette puso su información, please, you know, shout out to Yvette. También está Edgar y Clemon, si quieren, si se sienten cómodos poniendo su información para que sigan coordinando estos tipos de eventos. Así que gracias, LatinoLEAD. Gracias, panelistas, Yvette.
Gracias.
That is mine. I am the only Clemon wherever I go. So if you do Clemon, I will be there. But the email address is clemonw@umn.edu. But you just say, Irma, give me the email of Clemon's email, and she will.
De hecho, a ver, voy a poner también mi pensé, pero sí, igual. Nos conectamos todos.
El correo de Edgar no me lo voy a olvidar. Mire esa belleza. Panamá East.
Representando.
Se cuidan. Un placer.
Un placer. Muchas gracias.
Adiós.
Bye bye.